last video, I ended it with telling you guys about a guy that came down and he was upset. He had been kind of coming down, drinking beers and stuff on the wall and just kind of listening to everything, but he wasn't being part of my ministry at the time. He wouldn't come into our area. So I call him the shadows, but he would stay just out of the light from the pier. Had these lights. They'd sit on the wall just in a dark spot where you couldn't really tell who they were. But he'd sit over there and drink beers, and I had noticed he had been there a couple weeks. And he comes up to me after everybody had left, and I'm kind of picking my stuff up. He comes up and he's just like, "You guys are so effing stupid, and this is a bunch of lies." And he just starts snapping, just snaps. And I'm like, "Whoa, bro." I'm like, "I don't even know who you are. What are you talking about?" And he was pretty drunk. But he's like, "I stinking loved her. I loved her, and she stinking left me for no reason, and this and that." I'm thinking his chick broke up with him. And basically what had happened was the night before, his girlfriend had committed suicide, and she wrote him a really sweet letter and said, "Listen, don't blame yourself, man. I just can't get my life together. I can't get my head clear, and I just don't want to be here anymore. And it's not you. I love you very much. You're the only thing in my life that's happy, but it's not enough." And I'm sure she didn't want to hurt the dude. I mean, they loved each other clearly, but she was so hurt and she was so sad that she just couldn't find peace in any of it. And they had a good life. They lived together, but he came home and found her overdosed and on prescription pills. And you know, it was, he was down there hurt, drunk, stoned, high as you can possibly get. And he was hurt because he was so happy with her and they were so happy. They just, typical, everybody has a battle, everybody gets depressed. But he couldn't understand why she would leave him in that situation. Like, why would she abandon me and leave me to deal with this on my own? And they weren't married, they had just been high school sweethearts and were still together a couple years after high school. But he came down and man, he was kicking cans and he's like, "I'm gonna stinking kill everybody and I'm just gonna do something, I'm gonna make the cops shoot me and this and that." And he's talking about suicide, and all of a sudden, I got this weird, and I don't do this very often, I'm not prophetic, it's not my gift really, but I just had this peace that she had made a decision to do this. And you know, you guys, I understand it. I do. I mean, when I was a kid, I tried to commit suicide several times, and God put people in my lives that were not expected to stop me from doing it. And thankfully they did. But there was times in my life where I was so hurt and so empty and just didn't want to keep going, and I had no hope. And here this guy, you know, he's talking about how he's just gonna kill everybody. He wants to just go on some massive rampage. I'm like, bro, why do you want to hurt other people? If your girl hurt you this way, why would you go out and hurt strangers and then kill yourself? Like, why do you want to leave people with this same pain? I don't understand. You don't seem like a bad guy. And he told me, he said, "I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. I don't believe there's a heaven and hell and all this stuff." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'm be an atheist. I don't care. That's not what my thing was about." What I was there to do was pray for people, whether they believed in God or not. It wasn't the issue. It was, if God put somebody on my heart, I would ask them if they needed prayer. If they would allow me to pray for them, we would just see what happened. It wasn't, "Hey, you got to convert to Jesus or go to hell," or any of that stuff. It was just, "Hey man, I'm just here to pray for you. It works for me. I'm just hoping I can make your life a little better by praying for you." And he's like, "I'm atheist. I don't need prayer. I don't believe in God." And he starts just going off. And I literally, I walked up the pier with him. He goes, I'm going to kill myself. So I walked with him up the pier because I didn't want him jumping off. And I could tell he was hurt, but he wasn't going to kill himself. But I wanted to be with him. So I walked, I left my group, and they took my guitar to the truck for me and stuff and put it in their car. And I was gone for like an hour. And we walked out on the pier, and he threw every trash can. I think they lock them to the pier now, but back then they didn't. And he threw every trash can on the way out. He threw it over the edge and threw it into the ocean. And I'm like, come on, man. And people are yelling at him. I'm like, please just forget about it. He's having a bad day, dude. Like, so I'm defending this guy as he's just going up and down the pier trying to piss off everybody he could possibly piss off. And it was just terrible. But, the whole time I'm thinking, oh, great, these people are going to see me later and they're going to think, oh, you're a hypocrite. Because I was with him. But I needed to let him do what he needed to do to clear his head, and kicking and throwing things wasn't hurting anybody. So I walked with him, and we got to the end, and he just sat there and cried. He's like, dude, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live either. And we started talking, and sometimes you just got to get it out, man. And he's like, I just don't understand. We were just starting to talk about marriage, and we were just starting to talk about these things, and she was always so up and down. And he started sharing with me how she battled with depression, and she battled with suicide her whole life. Much like my friend in one of the past videos that had the demons harass him, he battled with suicide his whole life. And when he called me, he was ready to do it. He was done. He was calling me to say, I love you, goodbye. And I'm thinking of that. I'm just thinking, God, why did you let her go? Like, why was it okay? And you guys, I can't say 100%, hey, it was God saying this. But again, in my head, I heard a voice say, I have her with me. She's at peace now. And I'm like, God, I'm not going to tell this dude that. Like, I'm not going to tell this dude that his chick killed herself and is with you in peace. Like, I don't know if that's you or not. And so I'm walking with him, and he's crying. We're sitting at the end of the pier, and I'm just hugging on this dude, and he's just bawling hysterically. We didn't say a word for probably a half hour while he cried. And he's a huge dude, and all gothy, black makeup, the whole bit. And I'm just like, dude, I'm sorry, man. Like, I really don't know what to tell you. And he goes, I just wish I knew she was okay. And I go, well, what do you mean? And he goes, she wasn't an atheist. And she had just started looking into her spiritual walk, looking into whether she wanted to be a Christian or believed in God or not. And, a lot of times when people are making decisions, Satan ups the ante and really fires on people harder during those decision times. I like to say he puts more people, more demons, more stress, more anxiety and loneliness on people when they're at that end, because it's his last ditch effort. Some people give themselves to the Lord and they're free of all of that. And then some people, he wins and, they kill themselves and never ask God to forgive them. But when he said that to me, it was like God was saying, I kept hearing something say, she's with me, she's okay. She made a decision. And in the Christian world, you guys, there's a lot of turmoil in that, because I believe if you give your life to the Lord and you backslide and you walk away from God, there's nobody, sinner, not sinner, I don't care, mass murderer, I'm sorry you guys, but if they honestly, deep in their heart, give themselves to the Lord and they cry out to God, even though they have to answer for their sin, even though they may be on death row and being ready to be killed. You may be getting plugged into a machine and ready to inject it or whatever. And if they give their life to the Lord at that moment and they do it with the right heart, they do it sincerely. I don't know what that is. God does. You can't play God. But if they do it with the right heart, as wrong as it seems, as wrong as it seems to us as people, because people deserve pain and suffering that have caused pain and suffering. And, you know, there's a lot of people in the world that I look at and go, God, they don't even deserve the chance to know you. They don't deserve the chance for forgiveness. But I'm not God. I'm just a person. And in this situation, God kept saying to me, I kept just hearing this voice say, she's with me. She made a decision, she's with me. And the thing is she may have popped those pills and at that very moment started going, God, I'm sorry, forgive me. You know, I don't know, but there was such a peace in my heart that she was with God. And I finally said it to him. I said, is there any chance that she could be in heaven, bro? Like, think about that. He goes, I don't believe in heaven. And she believed in all that crap. And then I started realizing there was a good chance that she made it. And I understand the struggles in life. I understand the loneliness and the pain and the depression. And you know, Christian or not, you battle with the same things. It's just the difference is rather than going to alcohol and drinking and chicks and men or whatever you're into, instead of doing that, you go to God. And God doesn't always answer right away, but God's always going to show up. Always going to show up. And when we walked off that pier and he was calmed down, he's like, I just don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And I just told him, I said, man, I don't know what to tell you. What you believe in is if you believe there is no God, then you believe there's no God. And I can't convince you whether that's right or wrong. That's not my job. I'm not here to tell you. I'm just here to tell you what I believe. Share my beliefs with you. And if you want to judge me for it, go ahead. If you don't, then we be friends and I'll do my best to help you. You can help me. And he looked at me and he goes, so how am I supposed to be a Christian with all this and that? I said, God, you know, he goes, I don't even know if God's real. I just don't know if I can believe in God. I go, ask him. I go, ask him. When you're going home tonight, just ask him, God, are you real? If you're real, show me a sign. Show me it. Speak to me. Touch me. I want to know if you're real. I go, I believe that God will touch you if you ask him. I believe he'll give you a sign. He'll give you something because he loves you that much. But he also loves you so much that he's not going to force himself on you. He's not a dictator. He's not going to go, you're going to serve me and this is, you know. I told him, I said, he's going to let you have that decision. He's going to let you make the decision to serve him and to allow him into your life. He's not going to force his way into your life. And he left in an okay place, you know. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have let him leave because he was pretty drunk. But I wasn't thinking of that, so my bad. But he would go home. He did sober up quite a bit, but when he showed up, he was pretty bad. But on his way home, he would call me the next day and be super excited, freaking out. Joe, you're never gonna believe what happened. And he was driving home that night and he said he pulled over and I was actually still standing on the pier and I was praying for him because I walked back out on the pier once we walked to his car. I walked back out on the pier and I was just like, God, what the heck do I tell this dude? What the heck do I do? And I saw this huge, I mean, it freaked me out, to be honest. I saw a huge green, don't know if the scientific name is shooting star, meteor, whatever, but it was the size of the moon. Like it wasn't a little tiny light going across the sky. It was a big old green, and it lit up the whole sky on the outside of the pier. And all of a sudden I'm thinking Armageddon and this thing in the world and everything else. But this light shoots across the sky, big old fat one, looked like a meteor, what you see. So it had a big fat green light, but it had a long green tail on it. It just like slow motion. And then it went into the ocean. And I went, oh God, I gotta get off this pier because there's gonna be a flash flood. There's gonna be a tidal wave from that thing. And because it seemed like it was right close to me. And I literally was kind of like, it threw everything off. So I got off the pier really quick, and I walked up to the hill to my car, and I was just standing there like, nothing happened. It was weird. And I just went home. Like, I didn't know. I live up on the hill, so I guess I was safe, not a big deal. But it was just really weird. And I'd never seen anything like it before or after. And I was like, that was weird, man. And so I go home, and the next day this guy comes to me. He's like, dude, you're never gonna believe what happened. I pulled over on the side of the road, and I was crying, and I sat there for like an hour, hour and a half, and he goes, it's probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and whatever it was. And he's like, dude, I was just sitting on the side of the freeway crying. And I said, God, whatever God Joe serves. Now, you guys, is a Christian, is a person, that just rocked me. These people don't know God, but he wants the God that I serve. He wants the God that works in my life. He wants the God that I have a relationship with. And that meant the world to me, because that meant that I got my message across to him, that my God was real, that my God was there. And he said, Joe, I just say, God, whatever God Joe prays to, that's the one I'm talking to right now. And he goes, Joe told me that all I need to do is ask you, and you'll give me a sign. You'll prove to me that you're real. I don't know you. I wasn't raised in a church. I completely opposite. And he starts pouring his heart out to God. And he was sitting there crying, he said, in his car with his eyes closed, just talking. Because that's what I told him. He was like, I don't know how to pray. I go, just talk, dude. Like you're talking to me, talk to God. He's real. And so he's talking to God, and he's being as real as he can, not knowing what he's doing. And he said he just felt this overwhelming peace settle over him. And he goes, I got the chills from head to toe. I was just sitting there, and he goes, and when I looked up and opened my eyes, I saw this green shooting star go across the sky. And I was like, are you kidding me? And he goes, Joe, the crazy thing is, he goes, I'm really into stars and astrology and all the different things. And he goes, when he was in school, they taught him that for us to see a shooting star, for us to see a star, the light from a star, when it shoots across the sky like that, he said, they told us it takes 10,000 years for us to see that light from outer space. And I don't know, I'm not a scientist. I'm just telling you guys what he told me. And I got no reason to question him, whatever his teacher told him. My teachers told me a lot of weird junk that I don't really know if it's true or not. But he said it took 10,000 years for us to see that light. And he goes, so the way I figure it is either God did a miracle and shot that thing across the sky for me to see it that very second. Now, shooting stars don't last very long. But he said, when I looked up, it was light, it lit up my whole truck. And he goes, when I looked up and I saw that green light, it only lasted a couple seconds, but it seemed like it was in slow motion. And I started laughing. I go, bro, I saw that off the pier. I went back out and was praying. And I go, and I saw the same thing. And he goes, but the crazy thing is I believe that 10,000 years ago, God knew that I was going to be crying out. And I go, how heavy is that? If you go by science, 10,000 years ago, God sent a light knowing that this dude was going to be crying in his car and asked for a sign. And that sign could have been a bunny rabbit, could have been a deer walking up to his window, but he was an astrology guy. He was into the stars. So God used something that he knew and had knowledge on. So he stinking sees this star and he just instantly starts crying. He goes, I spent the next hour in my car just crying, thanking God, laughing. And he goes, and I got this overwhelming peace that my girlfriend was with God. And he goes, and so now I'm going to spend the rest of my life serving God so that someday I can see her in heaven. This dude was an atheist 2 days before. And, you know, you guys, I've never judged anybody. I'm not a judge. I have sin. I have things in my life that I can be judged for too. But God forgave me of what I've done. And I want to encourage you guys, don't judge people because of what you see. A lot of people are walking around hurt. And for me in my life, when I was a kid, I was tough and I was mean and I didn't want anybody to know that I was hurt because of my dad not coming and getting me, because of my mom throwing me out to adoption, and I felt a lot of rejection. So I covered that rejection up with violence. I wanted to be tough. I wanted people to be afraid of me so that I didn't have to tell them how sad and lonely and hurt I really was. And even my friends, my real friends that were in my life, they knew how hurt and how much of a little kid I really was, just looking for a dad, looking for peace. So, you know, you guys, we can't judge people. We have to be willing to love on them regardless of their situation, regardless of what they're doing. I've sat in alleys, like I said in one of my other videos, I've sat in alleys with hundreds and hundreds of drug addicts and watched them shoot up. I've sat there and watched them smoke. I've watched them pop pills. And people get, you know, the righteous, holy people, I call them the Pharisees, they get upset and go, well, you should be helping them. Well, I am helping them. I'm not going to stop them from doing something that they want to do. That's not the way the ministry works for me. What works is being there when they're ready, being there to make sure that they don't overdose, being there to make sure that when they're coming down off of that high, that they have somebody that loves them and cares about them, that's going to help them. And I've detoxed so many kids on my stinking living room couch. My kids grew up holding their hair out of their own puke so that they could detox without being thrown in jail, and going through the jailhouse detox that's so brutal. And you know, that's not tooting my own horn or glorifying any of it, but it's just to say that I've seen some of the heaviest stuff go down, you know, and I've seen some favor from God that's unbelievable. In some of the next stories that I'm going to talk about, that's really what I'm going to focus on, is the favor of God. Like with this particular guy, I didn't do anything. I just shared my heart with him. I shared what God put on my heart. But in the moment when he needed it, he knew that he trusted that he could call out on my God because of my faith. And I want to challenge the people that are watching this and reading my book. Where is your faith at? Why are you in the place you are? And do the people around you know that when things get hard, do they know that when things are rough that they can come to you and that you and your God are going to be the ones that save them? Or do they question it? And that's based on you. So subscribe, like, let me know how you guys feel about this. Please write to me. If you need help, reach out. If any of these videos are helping you, reach out. Let me know. I'll do my best to contact you, write you. I'd love to talk to you guys. I'm not doing this just to do it. I'm doing it because I want to help people. I want to get it out there. I want people to know the stories and not feel alone in the world. So hope this helps you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next one.